Welcome to another awesome day of FileMaker training. I am Richard Carlton, creator of fmtraining.tv, where every day is an exciting day because we are learning about the FileMaker platform, making awesome applications, custom applications, making a database. We want to call it a database, making things that people value that make our lives better, right? I had a customer this morning. I was talking to one of our engineers. He said FileMaker was so awesome. They were making such great improvements with it that they expected to be able to work a 4-day week, not 4 10-hour days, but 4 8-hour days. So shuffle down to like a 32-hour week. Now, some of you already work like 5 or 6 hours a week. I can't help you, but I'm talking about the people who work 40, 50, 60, 70 hours. What if you could work less time per week? The upcoming broadcast schedule for today is ZeroTier. It's a conversation with me and Jacob Taylor. We've been talking about this for a very long time, and today is the day we're going to talk about it. So it's not really FileMaker centric. So today is on ZeroTier, and the reason is Jacob's a big believer, like a hugely big believer in personal privacy, and also you could loop that into being bad hacker type people who want to ransomware your shit or cause your life to be miserable. So he's got a very acute set of skills in that area. Today's a conversation about that. So it's an augment to the FileMaker conversation, strictly not about FileMaker today. So Jacob Taylor came, back in the day, I would have static addresses on my computer so I could get into them. And they were Macs and they were generally pretty secure. But if you have a static address and not a super big firewall kind of operation going on, you're really exposed on the internet to bad people doing bad stuff. And Jacob was like, dude, you got to try this. Dude, you got to try it. Dude, you got to try it. Like 18 months later, 2 years later, I finally tried it. Oh my God. I should have just tried it day one. Problem is sometimes you don't have the time to take advantage of every suggestion that every IT person gives you because some of the suggestions might not be great. Jacob gives good advice. I just want to say that up front. So my problem was that Jacob was concerned that we were excessively exposed with static addresses on computers, like even on FileMaker servers, right? Excessively exposed to bad people doing bad stuff. And so Jacob says, well, we should use the ZeroTier stuff. And I started using it and oh my God, it's like the best. And it's basically free up to 25 computers, more or less. And then and I have like 30 or 40 computers attached to mine. So I pay an extra $5 or $10 a month. It's stupid cheap for what I get out of it. So if people say, well, what is it kind of like? And I say, well, it's kind of like a VPN, but it's not. And when I say those words, Jacob starts vibrating. Yeah. And it gets exciting because it's not a VPN, but if you're really a not technical person, it's kind of like that loosely. And I guess one of the things we should describe is what is this and how is it different than a VPN? And maybe to start off with that. So what is ZeroTier? How does it protect us? How would you describe this, Jacob?
I'm going to dive directly into technical descriptions, which is probably not the most fun.
And then I will translate. I will be the rescue swimmer in the deep end of the pool and rescue people. So I will translate. Perfect. So go.
So ZeroTier. So one. I'll actually take one step back on the technical verbiage here. So years ago, a lot of people are familiar with VPNs, and I'm going to answer from that perspective because I think that's most useful. People have used VPNs generally speaking, or they work for somebody, whatever, and they've either had to set one up or they've had to connect to one in some context where perhaps an IT person came and set some application up on your computer. That application lets you connect to a secured corporate network. We call that a VPN. The actual technical details, there's several different kinds of them, like as far as what specific technology and all this kind of stuff, as to how you're actually getting into that remote secured network. Generally speaking, VPNs, and I could use the example of something like OpenVPN, which a lot of people have either heard of, at least if not used. Something like that where you'll have a few different pieces where you'll have an application that runs on your computer. This is like a VPN client. You'll have an application running, I'll just say somewhere else. Often it's literally a VPN server. If you've dealt with VPNs, you'll have, you have like an IP address you have to connect to, and then you have like a username and password or something you're logging into. And that warms up this network connection when everything's good to go. You're logged in, you're secure, there's keys and security and all this stuff involved. But what that lets you do is it lets you get into like the office network, or you have like a file server at work or something like that, and you're you're off on a trip and you need to pull a document for a meeting or something like that, right?
So loosely, we're at home and we're going through the
Yep.
internet to the office somehow in a very loose sort of way. Okay, that's
Correct. Yep.
all right.
And so with a VPN, what you're going to have is probably often, but not always, at that office network, you'll have the VPN server. That's a machine you're connecting to. It's at the office. It is, you make the connection to it. It lets you access the stuff that's on your network, whatever that is. If it's a file server or some kind of, secured access thing.
Sure.
So once that's with those like details out of the way, there won't be too much different like past that point for ZeroTier, just as far as understanding goes. So the difference with ZeroTier is you do not have that server that you're connecting to at the far side. So you're not gonna like install this application on your computer that then connects up to your company's VPN terminator application or something like that. This can be literally like a machine somebody like me sets up somewhere on your network, like Raspberry Pi honestly could do low end stuff, all the way up to you can like write checks for VPN terminator hardware and stuff like that.
So we're gonna,
so
we install it. So say this is our FileMaker server here. We would install it over here. I'm gonna put a little checkbox over here. Yep. And then if we have a computer over here somewhere else on the internet or someplace, we would install it. So the same software we install here, we install over here. It's a little installer.
Yep.
And so once we do that, we configure it, and then it allows this traffic to go back and forth. Okay, great. So that's that part.
And so the thing with ZeroTier is we get rid of that connection server thing that has to sit on site, the VPN server itself. You get rid of that. You exchange it for, and it's the stuff in the middle. You see the one at the top, it's ZeroTier roots, and at the bottom, network controllers. I'm pointing in person, but if you would draw arrows, that would be ideal.
Yeah, but I'm sorry, down here, this thing up here, and then this thing down here.
The top and the bottom on the internet. So that is what replaces the like potentially singular server that you're connecting to. In that case, you like open ports on a firewall. Your remote computer, this is like the laptop that's at home trying to connect in, needs to connect in over this port and talk to the server. You log in. That gives you network information, and then also is that network connection that allows you to access these secured resources. So ZeroTier, from a user perspective, will work pretty similarly. Insofar as what you're doing is you're making a secured network where you can, from the laptop at home, talk to the server that is secured behind the big firewall at work, right? Like the concept is to get rid of the firewalls. Not really, but we want to keep all the firewalls, but you want to not have to deal with them for this stuff where,
well, you have to put
a
whole
specific port for a specific application. So
like let me back
deal
up
with
real quick.
all of that.
So Jacob, let me talk for a moment. You get a drink. So here's the deal with this: is that there's a firewall here, and you might have one at home. And like when I go to Apple, for example, and I'm on their wireless network, they guarantee have some sort of firewall that runs. And this firewall, basically, there's all these port numbers. For those of you who don't know what a port number is, it's like the problem is my modern analogies start to go away, but there's these numbers that start literally at the number 1, and they go up to like 65,000 or some number. And every application, when you say, well, I'm going to communicate, FileMaker is going to communicate from Pro over here to the server over here. And it's gonna, and it just talks to it. Okay, that's not technical. It just talks to it, right? What it actually is doing is it's sending TCP/IP traffic, and it's on a port number. You can think of it as a frequency. For those of you who have ever had AM, FM radios, you dial in the radio in or something like that on your car, something like that. And you have to have that exact number. If you're not listening, if the radio station is talking on 95.3 FM rock, right? Or the old radio stations, if you're not dialed into that frequency, you can't hear it. And so it's important to understand that there are these port numbers, they act kind of like a frequency. You have to talk on a number, and the person on the other end has to be listening on that number. Okay, that makes sense. There are some numbers that are like not assigned, but there's some numbers that are reserved. For example, FileMaker historically has reserved the number 5003. Nothing else should be using 5003. Your web browser should be using either 80 or 443. Okay, does that make sense? So in the old days, before any of this stuff happened, is that way we'd be over here. I want to connect to Apple computer and see the FileMaker server, this Apple computer. And so we could get out to our home network, my personal home network, but over here you go to Apple IT, which is called IS&T at Apple, IS&T, and you say, I need you to put a hole in the firewall to allow the 5003 traffic to go through. It may say something like kiss my ass or no effing way. Okay. That's typically what happens, because if they put a hole in the firewall, that's another hole that the bad guys can get through, right? And so the idea is that if you have to poke holes to allow a certain frequency through, like 5003 or 80 or 443, those are all avenues where the evil person here is my little evil person with the evil look on their face, and they're going to steal your. If there's a hole over here, they're going to try to get to that hole and get in here. Okay. And so the goal is, well, we're going to put a firewall up, but no one can get through it. Okay. But then we can't access the stuff we need access. So how do we protect ourselves from holes and get access to the stuff that we really need? And that's what this conversation is about, because having this conversation, like go to the Apple corporate, Apple's very secretive, open up port 5003. The number of the word F in the one sentence they tell me what to do with myself would be epic, right? And the problem is, if they say yes, then you get what you want, but that does open up possibility that someone could try to get through that, right? Like, can I sneak a signal through 5003 and hit something else and cause that computer to do something I want, like give me screen control or something like that, right? So that's kind of what this is about. So the idea is that you'll see these port numbers here, and some port numbers are assigned, some are not. The idea with this tech that we have, it goes through the firewalls like a hot knife through butter. It doesn't depend upon opening holes up in the firewall, which is probably where Jacob should probably pick up the conversation and explain kind of.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. So the roots and the controllers, the stuff in the middle here on this diagram, is what lets you do that. But I don't have anything that's not at like the lowest level view to talk about this stuff. I'm sorry. If you've never dealt with voice and video on the internet, if you have ever dealt with voice and video on the internet, you know what a stun server is. This basically does the same thing. It lets computers that wouldn't ordinarily be able to talk to each other do so. And so we eliminate via that process, we eliminate needing the server on the far end to like connect to and deal with all the stuff. So these web services that ZeroTier, the company, not the product, runs, which are the roots and the controllers and stuff, and we can talk about the functions of those if people are interested. But realistically, what they do is they allow this kind of magic internet connection.
Yeah.
And it's because both sides basically connect outwards.
Yes.
You don't need the incoming part, right? Like that's what the point of opening a port is. It's because any arbitrary thing out on the internet, maybe you've IP limited it, sorry, but any arbitrary thing out on the internet can come in, and if it's port 5003, and then you have some system on the backside. In this example, we'll say a FileMaker server. So you come in on port 5003, TCP connection, the router or the firewall thing at the end goes, oh, that's traffic meant for FileMaker, perfect, and it shoots it back, right? And then FileMaker maybe responds with a database, or whatever, right? Some record traffic or whatever's happening there, and so it replies. The firewall says, "Oh, that's from a previous set of traffic. It came into FileMaker, it's coming back out again, and it shoots it back out to the internet, and then to you eventually." So what ZeroTier lets us do is we put a tiny application, and I do mean tiny, on each of the computers that needs to be in this network. I'm using computers very broadly here to be clear. You put the ZeroTier application on any of the yeah, right. Thank you for the little green checks. That's perfect. You put the ZeroTier desktop application on any of the computers that you need to be in this network. You will then join them to that network, right? This is like an affirmative action thing.
Yeah. So you install it.
Join it. That's an action that you take.
So there's a web interface that allows you to basically talk to, and I think of these two things here as kind of this invisible magic layer in between. There's a web interface that we go into that says, hey, we're going to allow this machine to connect, and we're going to allow this machine to connect. And in my case, I have like 30 or 40 machines that are set up. I got in fact, where I'm at the helicopter place in Stockton, and I had to install it here so I could go through everyone's firewalls to get to the stuff over here. So I'm here. But I had to go in here and specifically say, yeah, this computer that's over here, let that in. So there's a config over here we have to explicitly set up, and it's pretty secure. It's well, very, very, very secure. So
yep. Let's see. I wanted to leave this. If we're done with the diagram,
I think probably I think people understand kind of conceptually what we're doing.
Okay, so this is the network. Let's see, I can actually log out and do this. You guys don't care about the login page.
So ZeroTier.com, and you're gonna log in, and
I'm on there. They call it ZeroTier Central. This is the web interface. They give this one away for free. As Richard noted, there are number of computer limits, at which point you pay a nominal amount of money. I think at the bottom end.
$5. $5 is the bottom
$5
end.
or $10 or something like that. Yeah. There is a obviously there's like an enterprise call list tier up there, but it's thousands of computers or you're doing really cool stuff.
Yeah, you have to have a pretty big company to make that interesting. And this would work really good with a big company. You want to go and log in, Jacob, or however you're going to do that. You're going to two-factor. Yep. Okay, so Jacobson's. All right, so
we go to the FM training test network that we're going to use for today.
They will give you an arbitrary name over here in case you're wondering about that. You see this over here? So this, right, where's my draw tool? There it is. So these are arbitrary names like Fluffy Beaver or Drunken Sailor or Nostalgic Hughes or Romantic Taylor, which is funny because that's your last name and you didn't ask for that. So you don't get a choice in that. Mine's Super Purple Beaver or something, whatever. And so but there's for each customer, right? Is the idea set up for a customer. Yep. And so once we do that, we
added labels finally.
Okay, great. Yeah. Okay. So then from here, what do we do? So then what we pick one?
So we have so I created this before today. And I unrolled about half of my demo so I could show, plugging the back half of it in basically, so I could demonstrate the cool thing that we're doing here outside of just talking and hand waving at cool pictures that they posted. So this is going to be our test network. We have FMTV test network. The actual code thing is this. I could honestly make it public and allow you guys to connect, but I haven't.
Yeah. We don't need to do that.
It's not useful for the demo really. So this is a private network. I'll just, as a side note, there are public networks. They are actually what they sound like, which is if you know the code, you see this code. If you guys tried to join this code or something right now, it would show up, but you're not authorized, so nothing will happen, and you can't touch anything, and you can't talk to anything, and you can't do anything. And you will sit there not authorized. We will show that in just a minute.
Yeah.
So with this code, with a different code, for example, and you mark it as public, anyone can join those, period. So all you have to do is know the code. So we come down here. Most of the stuff won't matter for this demonstration and doesn't matter too much, but they give you, for example, there's some internal IP addresses. These are all the different chunks of private IPs that have been standardized or whatever, so you can pick where you want to pull from. Most of the stuff doesn't matter too much. There's actually, this thing is, if we ever do a second stream, I want to do this DNS thing, but I didn't have time to set the demo up today. That's neat.
They have their own DNS in here? Okay. I did not know that. Okay, that's fine. We'll save it for another day. That's fine.
I will talk offline after stream. You'll be interested in this once I show you what you can do with it.
Okay.
It would be a good V2 or a second stream, follow-up stream, something like that.
Okay.
So anyway, there's some settings help. It's documentation and stuff like that. One device has joined this network. That's my computer, the one I'm streaming from right now. So.
Okay, so let me yak here for a second. So this is right, just hold right here. This is a database record. This is specific to a computer that's connected, a phone, iPad connected, laptop. So on mine, I said I had like 35 or 40. So I have 35 or 40 of these on my list. Jacob has got a test network here. So I have to scroll through these. So what's important to understand about this? Important to understand is one, that we had that network ID, which is this thing up here. And the other part is that when we, the short version is that we're going to have a computer. For this to be useful, you have to have at least two computers in here. And I think he's done one. He's going to probably do the second one and walk us through that.
Connect the second one. Yep.
But let me just, before we do that. So the computer will come in here, and this is the ID specific to a computer. And then we're going to say, is it authorized? Yes, it is. We're going to go through that. He'll demonstrate that. The point, though, is that then I'll have two entries in here. And this is a make-believe not real IP address. From our perspective, from my Richard Carlton perspective, like 172 or 192 or 10.1, these are addresses that are not real static addresses. Like if you go to 6.6.6.6 or whatever it is, that goes to like a Google server. It's like a machine in a data center that's a specific, I could like go there and point at it. It's a specific box. This right here is an address that we assign to my network internally, right? That will ZeroTier assigned. So it says, well, Richard, we're here, and here's your FileMaker server down here, and here is the address for it. So if I'm here and it's down here and it's 172.30.206. maybe 48 or something, some number very similar, then that's the number I can use to get to it. No one else, even if they have this address, they cannot get in here. It's secure. That makes sense. So we set up the network, we authorize both sides, turn them on, and then we have this address down here, 172, and someone says, well, that's not secure. I can give 172.30.206.47 to all of you, every last one of you here, and no one can get in here. In fact, in some of your organizations, this address is being used for something else. Your IT this number is recycled within a lot of different organizations, right? It might be your coffee maker or your Xerox machine or a photocopier that's connected to your network or something. It's internal addresses. So you're going to get these addresses that appear to be internal, and they are, but once you're in this network, they have a real destination. So I tell on can you go back to the diagram real quick? So I'm here, I authorize both sides. Then I get this I have my own 172.blah, blah, blah, blah. And then over here, my FileMaker server, I have probably a 172.blah, blah, blah. All I have to note is connect, make sure my app is running, and on top of my screen up here at the top, there's a little app running up there. Or that's Jacob's app on his computer. It's running, okay? And so it's turned on, so it's activated. It sees it, it's activated. And then Nostalgic Beaver is enabled. And then so when he types the number over here, it goes, and it stops right here and it goes, hey, what the hell? And it says, well, you're authorized. And since you're super secret Mickey Mouse Club approved, we will actually route you to the correct destination. And so from my perspective, that's all you have to know. I'm done. So Jacob can take it from here. But from my perspective, I get to where I want to go. I didn't have to open a hole through the firewall. And to break into this, I would have to break into the ZeroTier system and somehow authenticate or whatever. Right. So.
Yep. Yeah. And good luck with that. Not merely because they take security seriously. Also because, so all the communications in ZeroTier, and one of the reasons I like it, one of the jobs of the little application that runs on your computer is to keep your keys. So unlike actually VPNs, you have keys on your computer. Those keys are used to encrypt all of your traffic. When you are encrypting all of your traffic, you are encrypting it for your communications partner. That is the other end of the ZeroTier connection. So in this case, when you on your laptop are talking to you on your FileMaker server, right, over this internet thing, he cleared the lines or whatever, but you can imagine it was.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
That's fine. So when you're doing that, you are actually encrypting that data, not merely like, SSL, something like that, but actually the ZeroTier app on the other end is the thing that is decrypting the data for you. So even if you captured, say, the entire communication stream between the two computers, you wouldn't be able to do anything with it. It wouldn't even be noticeably FileMaker.
Is it actually SSL or is it something else?
It's something else.
TLS or something or whatever. I don't know. Yeah, so
their own thing. No, it's like
It's
encryption. Yeah, it's an end-to-end encrypted connection. It's a P2P networking system. Yeah, that's why I say it's like, it kind of looks like a VPN if you like squint really hard. But
yeah. So this is pretty awesome. So this is all encrypted in here end to end. Pretty cool. So this is what we use. Allows me to access any of my assets anywhere.
I'm gonna switch.
Do we have, Margaret, do we have questions along the way? I guess you should. I don't know if Margaret's still
have a question. I'm still here. So first question, can you see ports as doors and an IP as a house/building?
Sure. That would be a good analogy. I like that analogy. That's good enough for what I'm doing. Yeah. So sure. Yeah, they're different, but just keep in mind that if there's 65,000 possible ports, that means you have 65,000 possible doors to your house, which is a hell of a thing, right?
Okay, so this works with iOS. Oh, sorry.
It works with everything. Phones, Androids, old. Jacob, can you pop up the page, just a new window browser and go to where you can download the installer for this? It's like, I don't know if it works on
Everything.
Let's see, Linux.
It's
Okay.
gross. No,
Okay,
you don't.
What is that? What is that?
FreeBSD.
Free. Okay. What is this?
It runs on that is NASA's because it supports all of the weird Linux variants.
So
that run
what are
on
the
NAS
little
systems.
Adreno boxes and the little? What's the other one that we play with?
Pi,
like
a
Raspberry
Pi
Pi,
or something.
which are kind of a little Linux box, right? Kind of thing.
Yep.
So it runs on those.
Yes.
If it runs on that stupid, which is like a $20 computer, then it runs on everything that all of you care.
It runs well on. Yes. So we will.
I feel a story coming here. Here comes the story.
We will touch none of the interesting parts of this technology today. Don't worry. One thing that you can do with ZeroTier, and like if you get on the call us because you're doing something cool with ZeroTier. One of the call us's is they have a software development kit. You can integrate ZeroTier, the network layer, into an app. Like an Android app can use ZeroTier. This is not making a VPN connection or a network, like a network listening thing on your phone.
But it's providing
literally
point-to-point
it can
encryption.
backhaul. Yes, it can backhaul to your secured like cloud network thing. And this is an app that's doing it. It's not even an entire separate, I'm not talking about like the ZeroTier application running on your phone or something like that. That's the other way you can use it.
That's what these are up here. These are installers for your phone or your iPad or Microsoft Surface or whatever. So
or any of it.
I did not know that. So you could. So okay, just to be clear, and I'm going to be very clear about this. Hypothetically, Claris could build this into their product, and it would actually probably help the security quite a bit.
They could ship it and go if they wanted. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you'd have to put it on server too, right? You could put it in mobile, and you could put it everywhere.
Yep.
Okay. Interesting. Not that they are. I'm just saying, what if? Next question. Go.
Yes. When connected to ZeroTier, can you use a network printer?
Yes.
Okay.
Assuming you've, otherwise configured the network printer appropriately or whatever. If you, the longer answer is, it does the thing that you'd expect. So if
can you go back to the diagram real quick? Go back to the diagram. We're about to have a diagram moment. And I'm going to say something.
It's not a diagram. We can talk about the diagram. It's not a diagram moment.
Okay. Well, you're going to stop me when I screw this up.
Okay.
So remember we had the 172 dot whatever, and there was a 1 over here too. So the way this generally works, when you do a VPN, everything gets routed through the VPN system. Everything. This doesn't work this way. What this thing does is that if I type in 172 dot whatever, ZeroTier, like magically, it's magic. I'm going to write magic over here. It magically turns on and goes, hey, Richard wants that 172 thing that he's got set up with us. We're going to direct the traffic. It only does that if it sees how, and Jacob can modify this statement, but it only does that if it sees an address that it knows it should resolve for me, like 172. If I do anything else, any other printer, any other network, everything else, it works normally. So it's not like a VPN where it replaces your and everything goes through it. People go, things are so slow for me at home because I have to do a VPN to the home office in Alaska, and then I'm actually in India, and then it's doing unnecessary roundabout, right? So this thing only intervenes if it sees an address that it knows it should process. Does that make sense? Did I even remotely say that correctly, Jacob?
Yeah.
Close.
Yep.
Okay, good.
And then for the purposes of, say, sharing a printer, for example, the ZeroTier network itself, which looks like a LAN on your computer, local area network LAN, like you're in an office and you have little 3 computers plugged into the little switch on the desk, right?
Yep.
You have just created the little switch on the desk, but the 4 little, maybe 5, you have a newer one, you have 5 Ethernet plugs on it, right? Those Ethernet cables can go anywhere on the entire face of the planet. And so your printer can be plugged into your desktop computer, your laptop at home, for example, and you're in the office right? And those two computers can talk to each other because they have a zero-tier network. So it might probably wouldn't, it's a bad example because of corporate policies, to be perfectly honest, but we'll keep with the bad example. From your work computer, you're like, oh, I want to print this out at home. Probably should be the other way.
Right, exactly. But yeah, all that classified.
Let's reverse the example. Okay. Okay. So you want to print something out at work. You're at home. Got it. Okay. You need to connect to the printer. The printer's in the office. So you're on your home computer. You go to your home computer. You're on your laptop. You fire up Windows. You fire up Mac. Whatever you're doing. You say, I want to print this document. You go to print. You go to your print dialog. Doesn't matter what computer it's on, and you do look for a network printer. If you have a zero-tier network connected between the two computers, and for example, that on the remote side, the printer is wired up as a shared local network printer or something because you're talking to, say, the print server, or it's literally your desktop computer is the one that has the printer wired into it at work. Yeah, short version, yes. You can just print across and it'll work the normal way. So
will this work with private MAC addresses, iOS enabled by default? Question mark.
Correct, yes. And yeah, the answer is yes. It works on Android with private MAC. It works with iOS on private MAC. It doesn't. Private MAC address is a privacy enabling setting that Apple and Google and them have shipped recently. That basically there's like an identifier on your wireless card, basically at the like physical screaming network level. This is under the computer stuff. And so there's like an ID. It's called the MAC address. They can change randomly. They can be static. There's been different ways that people treat that over the years. Everyone decided to stop basically like having it like a serial, and so it changes randomly now. That interfered 20 years ago with of the ways that you'd control your network. For example, some of you may remember you used to be able to set like MAC address allow listing on a wireless router.
Yeah.
Right. Like you could, plug in the 5 laptops you're going to have on there or whatever. They're orthogonal to each other. They're not related.
What is your experience according to the uptime of zero-tier?
Great. They have occasional flaps like anybody else.
Yeah, I had a problem the other day when I was at Apple, and I couldn't figure out it was something Apple had did or ZeroTier was having a problem, but I could not connect through the network into the computer there. So, for example, I have a live stream computer that works at Apple, and I can connect to it through ZeroTier, and it's secure and stuff, and I it's all locked up, but for whatever reason the other day it just wouldn't work. And I came back the next day, it was fine. So I don't know what happened, right? I don't know. But yeah, generally availability.
There's occasional challenges like that. I'll say generally speaking, their uptime won't be the relevant conversation actually. One useful point is that ZeroTier will do its level, like the application. Sorry, I should be specific what I'm talking about. The software application ZeroTier will be as avoidant as possible of using the ZeroTier, the company's centralized services. It is intended to be a peer-to-peer networking technology. That was the original intent. It actually originally designed, it actually didn't even have a central login or any of that kind of stuff. And then they realized they can't do any of the enterprise stuff without that, so it got added. But
so once you connect, you do the initial connection, then you're going direct. You're not talking.
You're not talking through them at all. No. Okay. And indeed, you may not even be talking to them for the connect if it can figure out how to do it without them. So
yeah, if you did it, if you did it recently and it was like cached or something on your computer, right. But if you've never connected ever before, like these two have never on screen ever talked to each other, it's probably going to have a conversation with the server.
So. They'll have to find each other originally. Like I said, there's a stun-like process that happens of double opening ports and doing all this sort of stuff. That's the magic part of this. It's not magic. It's just annoying, and we don't need to talk about it because it doesn't matter much for this. It's cool. Leave it. What was I going to say?
We're talking about the from going point A to point B, remembering where it gets, how's it gets there, right? It's going point to point. It doesn't have to go to the ZeroTier server.
Yeah. So, there is and so everyone always asks, there is a functionality for it to relay through the central servers, right? If you truly, the computers are on, I'll just say extremely wild networks, that's a big hand wave. Sorry, but for those of you with highly locked down enterprise networks, you will know what I mean by that. You really can't get anything in or out if somebody hasn't approved it. In a situation like that, where you're going outside this secured corporate network to something else, there is a facility for relaying the traffic. That's actually where the keys in the app and the end-to-end encryption becomes very important, because it answers your question of, okay, so is my cool data flowing through ZeroTier servers? Generally, the answer is going to be no, as much as the software can make that true. However, right, if there isn't any other facility to get the traffic between the two computers, that's what it'll do. It'll go through the central
Can
server.
I make a request that you go ahead and do your,
that.
why don't we add that one? Because we're talking a lot of questions here. Let's just do the add, show that process.
Yep.
And then we'll answer more questions. Margaret, you can line up more questions.
So
But
I was actually reading their help docs because I deleted my node earlier, and then I have to add it back. And apparently you have to do that the manual way, which I just learned. Congrats. This is why we do live demos.
So normally what you do is you install, how this works is you install the little app right on your computer.
Yep.
And then you're going to take that address that's up here for your network, and you're going to type it into the client.
Yep.
So then the client is going to call ZeroTier and say, hey, this is a network I want to connect to. Can I connect? And you'll get an entry down here that it won't be authorized. That won't be checked. It'll have like a yellow warning label, a stripe or something on it. So it says that this person is applying, would like to connect, but you have to come into this interface. And okay, so what he's done right here is it's already been. Can I?
I know it's a bad.
Can I add it from here? Can I try to add it from here? I'm afraid to do that. Can I join the network? Just you don't have to prove it. Can you read it? Read it to me real quick, and I'll try to do it. So read it to me.
56374.
56374. Yep.
Alpha Charlie. 9.
Alpha Charlie. 9.
Alpha. 422.
422.
Delta Charlie.
8 Charlie.
8
Charlie. And I'm going to say join.
Yep.
And then we're going to jump back to
down.
Jacob's thing here. So he's going to refresh. And if it works the way it's supposed to, hang on.
There's a Richard.
Okay. So up there at the top, this is the computer out here where the helicopters are at. And I've applied to be in his network. It's not active until he checks the little checkbox over there on the left, right?
Yep.
And so if he does this and he approves it, then within his network, I will get an address, and it will be 172.30. And notice these aren't exactly sequential. They're a little random, but they all tend to be within the same general number range. If that makes sense. So now I'm approved. I'm not sure if this is good or bad, but there you go. That's how it works. It's that simple, that dumb, duh. And of course, there's a FileMaker server right there. And so, and then.
So I'm gonna. So the actual demo today, because we should do a real demo.
Okay, I thought that was real, almost real.
It's almost real. We're not quite to the real part yet. So what have we done here? We have 3 computers on on this magic virtual network between them. Okay, right.
Correct.
So the FileMaker server, this is the normal one. It's the stream computer, and I put that address on it. I wrote that label basically, right? So that is the normal stream computer. If you watching in the audience try to connect to that server right now, you will note it's not connectable over the internet. I'm grinning because it actually is. So I'm gonna grab. So let's see for Richard.
Well, the rub is that the stream server, that's a publicly facing server anyway. So unless you find a way of.
Let's see. So I want to go here, and then I need to do Route 53. And so we're going to update.
Hang on. Let me
you're good.
Nuke my.
Purple circles, perfect.
Thank you.
So I'm going to go update this address because I was testing it earlier and it's the wrong.
Oh, okay. So what he's doing is he's taking that address, the 172, right?
Hold on.
And and so if we put www fluffy blue beaver, it will route to the 172.30. Whatever.
Sweet.
So we could give everyone could say, I've got Richard's secret network, fluffybluebeaver.com. You get the idea that but only if you're connected will fluffybluebeaver.com resolve correctly.
Yep. So you all can, sorry, my flub here is that it put everything back for me, so I didn't actually need to update anything. Sorry. You all can see that. You can see it's zt.rcc.com. Yes. So if you're not on our ZeroTier network, you don't have access to that. So here's this. I'm going to go to my terminal and show you guys. So I'm going to open a new tab. This is on my computer. I'm going to use dig, which does DNS requests, right? I'm just going to validate basically, right? atrcc.com. This is going to give me some output here. But the key thing on screen is going to be this right here. So we have this address. Yep. And then there's the IP. You saw that earlier. Okay. So, and you may notice this, zt.atrcc.com. Yeah. Okay. Right. And so here's, there's nothing here. So I'm going to log in. This is our little demo. It's got an FMSP Lite copy on here, right? Got our little picture of Haley. Fantastic. We'll go look at contacts. Cool. Right. So you guys just saw that. I logged in. I'm going to show you what was interesting about that. Obviously, it was over ZeroTier. That's the whole point. But is it that one? It's that one. So this is the server. This is the instance view. It's the individual machine in Amazon.
Okay, so we're looking at Amazon
Yep.
AWS, and what we're looking at. Okay.
Yeah. So we have 3 computers in this network. One is mine, one is Richard's, and one is this Amazon computer, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So this is the Amazon machine. It's got its little IP address. You can see all the little details here. It's running, whatever. It's got a FileMaker server running on it.
Okay.
The thing I want to show is list. Sorry, I'm looking for. All right. So this is the security group. It's what Amazon calls firewalls. So we have this Ubuntu FMS ZeroTier, right? Okay. I'm going to switch over here. This is Ubuntu FMS ZeroTier. Okay. I'm going to go down here. The only thing that's allowed is SSH from a couple of addresses, not FileMaker. Okay. There's no FileMaker here, right? Asking for double checking of everybody on live television. There's no FileMaker here. Okay. But I'm connected to FileMaker here.
Right.
So that's like to put all the little pieces of the demonstration together. That's what you can do right there. So there is not a facility on this server running in Amazon to have external FileMaker connections. I logged into FMSP Lite.
Okay, so you did that really fast. So let me. People are drowning. I was not following it. So go back to Amazon real quick. So let's look at the Amazon server real quick, and I'll do it slower. So show us the server.
This one. This is
okay. So this is the FileMaker record. So this is the FileMaker server. That's a virtual server running on a rack. He's showing that the security settings for this machine are that setting right there, which they call security groups, and nothing in there is port 5003, which is FileMaker. So there's no FileMaker in there. At all. So how's FileMaker getting through there? It's coming through because of ZeroTier because it's installed and running on this machine.
Yep. Correct.
So yeah, that's why he jumped screens there. But yes, that's how that works. So
switching around screens too.
But it doesn't have to be Amazon. You could have a server on-prem server in your office, right? And I have one at home, and I like DBW2. Most of you can't see that server. It's called DBW2. 02 at rcc.com. People can't see it unless you're part of my private ZeroTier network. Then that goes right through every firewall, including the one I have at home, into that Mac server so I can access that data anywhere. Pretty cool. So it's not just Amazon, it's on-prem servers, it's
and you can do all kinds of cool stuff with ZeroTier, but that's the basic like instant magic demo. Of getting through the firewall. It's secure. You got no questions about the data security and all that kind of stuff. There's no concerns. There's a bunch of other stuff to talk about with ZeroTier. Honestly, the entire thing can be hosted. So if you're actually the level of paranoid where you don't want ZeroTier, the company, running your stuff,
like if you're the NSA or something, right? Or DoD, Department of Defense. Yes.
Somebody cool. Yep. So the ZeroTier Central, that's the web interface. You can host that yourself. The controller, you can host that yourself. I forget the name of the third component. It's got a product name too, but you can host all the stuff, all the parts of it that actually run the ZeroTier, the part that does the central server thing, that does the magic on the firewalls and that stuff. The stun-like process I've mentioned a couple times. And so you can host all of that stuff yourself. So if you actually have that level of network control necessary, you can do it.
Cool, cool. Questions, Margaret, go.
Questions, yes. Guess your IP should not be in the same subnet set in ZeroTier.
That's yeah, actually.
Yeah, the answer is
Correct.
yes. And I had problems where I was trying to have
the networks will run into each other. Your computer is not that smart and will look and go, I have a route to this local IP address and I have a route to this local IP address, and they're different routes and it's the same IP. We have a problem. So it's going to pick randomly, and that will be surprising in the wrong way to you, the user. So
what we had, like Jacob has multiple ZeroTier networks, and I was trying to do 2 of them. And so I ended up setting up 172 on one network and then 192 or something else somewhere else, whatever we were doing that way. Because I didn't change it, and the default settings ZeroTier actually end up using the same numbering scheme on both networks. It screwed me up, right? Because if you use one network or the other network at a time, it's fine, but Jacob's connected to 3 simultaneously. So it's not just like all of you here, probably it's a one setup one, but if you're connecting to 3 different customer servers and this, that, and the other thing, and each one has their own network, then you have to potentially do 3 in parallel, right? They have to not run into each other. So you'd have to, Jacob, I don't know enough about the IP structuring, but is it the first octet of that has to change, or is it the middle one, or what's the?
So if we go look at the list here, what I tell people, and this is just deconfliction deconfliction advice.
Yes.
So easily, you don't even have to think about it, as long as any of your networks aren't the same one of these.
Okay. So I would because I don't have any 172s anywhere. So I would use like on one network here, then I'd use 126 on this one, then this one, then I'd keep them all.
Yeah. At
For
home,
my sanity,
I have a 22, a 24, a 26, and a 30 somewhere. There's a 192.
For my and I have 192s on my network, so I would not use any 192s, and because I don't want to use 172, I would reserve, for me personally, all my 172 would be for zero. If I see 172 that has something to do with ZeroTier. That makes sense, everyone? Some networks, I have 10s on some of the security cameras at our offices are on 10. And so you'd have to watch out. So you have to kind of think about this a little bit. So questions, Margaret, 5 minutes left. Questions.
What shows if you route print at terminal?
I don't know. We'll find out.
Yeah, let's do that.
I don't know. I hope the command is right. Route print. Nope. Let's try it on the remote system. Nope. Mr. David Angel, you will need to type out a full and complete command if you want me to show my butt live on air here. I'll run it and show you. I'm not. It's fine. I don't care.
And Varus57 says, I really like that level of control.
Oh, this is awesome stuff. I wouldn't.
Route print is for Windows. He's trying to find the equivalent for Mac.
Perfect.
So.
Was it like a trace route? Is that what he's saying? He wants a trace route on the packets, like where they're bouncing?
It should list the route table, if I'm guessing what the command does correctly, because what that would tell him is if it's basically how much of the traffic it's capturing. The thing that you said earlier was about VPNs capturing all of your traffic, right? It makes the entire internet slow when you're connected to the VPN.
Yes.
Those are full take VPNs. Those are VPNs that the routes that they give to your computer. Here's how you find the internet routes like roads.
Runs through their server 100%.
And they just capture everything. Yeah, they just say all routes to the internet are through the VPN, and then you have everything is slow. So ZeroTier, and actually just honestly more circumspect VPNs will only give you routes, the traffic that applies basically. So if in this case, a more narrow case, your office network is, I'll just steal an example from on screen, 172.25.something.something, right? That's your office, your office network, your IT person set that up for you. So then ZeroTier in that case will only capture that subset of IP traffic. So it won't capture everything. That's also the same reason why they can run into each other if like your actual LAN network has the same subnet as one of these.
Yeah, so the range of numbers is the same.
Netstat.
Okay.
Okay, cool.
So the thing is netstat. Okay, you saw it. Yep.
There's all kinds of crap. Which one you want? V4? Here, let's do that one. And then hold on. Let me go be useful. I'm the presenter. So we're on 172.30 for this network. Yep. All right, cool. 172.30. So that's going to be these. So that
Okay.
should answer whichever question David Angel had. But that's going to be those sections. So
from Ken, when deleting a computer from your ZeroTier, enough to uncheck it or to use the trash can in Control Central?
If it's good for me, if it's going away, I trash it. If I want to disable it temporarily, like I have a staff,
you can unauthorize it.
You can unauthorize it. They don't really go away, right?
Yeah. So actually part of my I'll say egg on my face demo today is because I trash canned it. And so that, instantly deauthorized it. So it can't continue to talk to anything on my network. But it doesn't actually throw it away. At least not immediately. I think there's an actual cleanup time on ZeroTier's end, the company in this case.
A week or a month or something, whatever it is.
Yes, it's a reasonable amount of time, but yes. And so when I threw it away today, it got stuck in that, it's thrown away. They're not allowed to do anything. Obviously, it deauthorized them immediately, but it basically hit it. And then
if someone comes back and wants to reapply to come back in, it was suppressing that reapply part where you come down here. Yep. Where was that at? Can you scroll down?
Yeah, because I did the join previously.
That's what you saw mine. You saw mine.
This is the help. Yeah. So this is the note. Another reason I like ZeroTier, their documentation is fantastic. They have this stuff in the panel where you're doing things. Here's the documentation for what you're looking at right now. And then also, and we can provide some links, but they have a voluminous set of documentation for how to do almost anything that you want with the software. And for anything ZeroTier, the company, hasn't done, there are many people in the community who have done wild and amazing things with the software, and they write blog posts about it. One of the original reasons I learned about this because I met the guy. I don't actually know if he still is, but he was.
You met the CEO or something?
He was a CEO. Yeah, I'm not name dropping or whatever, but I hung out with him for a couple of hours and talked through this stuff and was like, oh, that's cool.
You guys geeked out.
And then forgot about it for 2 years, whatever, you do.
The short version is that let's answer any other questions we have. But yeah, this documentation on screen is here. It's pretty straightforward.
Sorry. Yes. So the original, the neato thing where I was like, oh, I bet Richard would like that. The original reason, separately from, we have computers on the internet and not enough firewalls, blah, 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 original complaints. So one thing I saw somebody do, and is probably very old now and uninteresting, they had remote, I don't know what they were. Sorry, I don't know the answer to that question, actually. But remote computers in BFE, and then the backhaul internet connection for them was Starlink. And no one physically is located out
probably
where these
the
things
Ukraine
are.
or something. There's a lot of Ukraine.
Yeah, I didn't ask further details, but they were doing backhaul. Basically, they were unmaintained, or no human interaction or contact remotely. They get placed wherever they are and then sat on. And so they had a backhaul on Starlink, and they were running the ZeroTier connection over Starlink. So they had an end-to-end secured system over space to do the, authorized and authenticated. They're calling back to their central direction server that tells the little bobs what they need to be doing or whatever. But, I saw that. I saw a blog post about it, and I was like, whoa, that's cool. Because I didn't think it was technically developed that far at that point. And they were using it. They were using it in production for this stuff. They had some kind of cloud services thing, and then these little we'd say it's machine learning or AI or something now, but something out in the network or out in the world listening or looking for things.
More questions, Margaret, as we get close to landing the plane?
I don't see any, actually.
Really? Well, the reason we brought this to everyone is because, like I said, it's what I tell Claris. I said, I only promote the things that I believe in and I love. And this thing has been so great because what I can do over here is on the Mac, you can go into system settings here. When you go down to general, you go down to sharing, and you can turn on screen sharing or some other sharing. And normally you can't get to it because you're not on the local network. But if these things are on a ZeroTier network and I see screen sharing, I can remote in and see, if I go over here and I hit go and I hit, connect to a server, Command K. And this is the database server that is behind ZeroTier. You can't get to unless you're part of my network. I say browse. It goes out to my ZeroTier network and it sniffs around to see what it can talk to. This is all the shit I have on my ZeroTier network right now. That's responding. So my computer in Dallas is there. Computer in San Luis Obispo. That's the computer at Apple, right? All the stuff that supports the live streams.
That's how we do distance live streams. We use ZeroTier to remote into the broadcast machine so I can run the live stream anywhere from a laptop.
Yeah, and the running assumption is that you never have to, like right now, things are kind of dicey with the broadcast machine because we've been wrestling with it. Some of you have seen that. Once that's stabilized and we know that we won't have to like hit the power button on the back, like physical presence, we can do it remotely, right? You have to have a well-behaved computer. Right now, we don't have that, but normally you would, right? So Jacob Taylor geeks out with another CEO and they're excited. It must be pretty good. And I would only tell you that I should have listened to Jacob sooner. And so now that I am thrilled because I'm doing more than I ever used to do. Because we used to use this Timbuktu stuff. Remember that? We remote control and all that. And
Team viewer. Yeah.
Yeah. Team viewer and all this sort of stuff. And I can remote into a customer computer if they have screen sharing on. Now with Windows, a little trickier. But on a Mac, it's a checkbox you turn on, just works. Especially with take the ZeroTier at a free level and the Mac sharing at the free level, and suddenly I can securely log in and do stuff across the planet. Literally, I don't have any machines that are outside the continental U.S., but Dallas from here is 1,800 miles or something, and it's like instantaneous. So, all right,
that's how I have everything set up. I have my laptop, so whenever customers are like, oh, my server's down. Guess what? I don't actually have to be at the office.
Which is nice.
I screen share to the computer that I'm streaming from right now and fix it. Yep.
All right, everyone. Have a good one.
Bye.
No.